In 1964, a group of elementary school children were given a test that could see the future. The test could detect which kids were about to bloom, which ones were standing right on the edge of a sudden burst of intelligence. The school called these the special children. And over the next year, those exact children did bloom. Their scores climbed, their grades rose. Their teachers watched it happen with their own eyes. There was only one problem. The test was fake. It measured nothing at all. And the children who bloomed had been chosen completely at random. Nothing about them was special, until someone decided to believe it was. This is the Pygmalion Effect, and once you understand it, you will never look at a low expectation the same way again. The man behind it was Robert Rosenthal, a psychologist at Harvard. Years before he ever walked into a school, he was running experiments on rats. He handed his students two groups of ordinary lab rats and told them a lie. One group, he said, had been specially bred to be brilliant at running mazes. The other group was dull, slow, the bottom of the litter. In reality, the rats were identical, split apart by nothing but chance. But the students didn't know that. They believed it completely. And when the results came in, the so-called brilliant rats ran the mazes faster. They made fewer mistakes. The dull rats lagged behind, exactly as predicted. Same rats, same maze. The only thing that had changed was what the humans handling them believed. Rosenthal looked at his plain, ordinary rats outperforming each other based on nothing but a label, and he asked the question that would define the rest of his life. If a belief can change a rat, what is it doing to a child? To find out, he needed a real school. He found one in San Francisco, an elementary school he called Oak School, and a principal named Lenore Jacobson, who agreed to help him. At the start of the year, every student took a test with an impressive name, the Harvard Test of Inflected Acquisition. The teachers were told it was a brand new instrument, sensitive enough to detect which children were about to experience a dramatic intellectual growth spurt in the months ahead. The bloomers, the ones whose minds were about to take off. It was not real. It was just a standard intelligence test wearing a fancy name. It predicted nothing. After it was scored, Rosenthal ignored the results entirely. He walked into each classroom, picked about 20% of the children at random, and handed the teachers a list. These, he said, are your bloomers. Keep an eye on them. The names on that list had no connection to anything the test had measured. A child on the list was no smarter than a child left off it. The only difference between them now lived inside the teacher's head. Then, everyone went back to normal. Rosenthal left, the teachers taught, the year unfolded, and at the end of it, every child was tested again, this time with a genuine measure of intelligence. The children who had been labeled bloomers, the ones picked purely by chance, had gained more than the rest. Not a little. The effect was strongest in the youngest grades, where some of these randomly chosen children gained 10, 15, in a few cases over 20 extra points compared to their classmates. Kids who had started the year identical to everyone else had pulled ahead, simply because an adult had been told to expect it. The prophecy had made itself come true. So what actually happened inside those classrooms? Because nobody told the teachers to teach these children differently. Nobody handed them a special lesson plan. The teachers would have sworn under oath that they treated every student exactly the same. And they believed it. The whole thing worked precisely because it was invisible, even to the people doing it. Rosenthal spent years pulling the mechanism apart, and it came down to 4 quiet things. First, warmth. A teacher who expects a child to be brilliant is gentler with them. They smile more, lean in closer, nod more often. The child feels, without a single word being spoken, that they are safe and that they belong. Second, input. The teachers gave the bloomers more material, harder questions, more to chew on, because surely a child this gifted could handle it. Third, patience. When a bloomer didn't know an answer, the teacher waited. They offered an extra second, a hint, another try, instead of moving on. And fourth, feedback. The bloomers got richer, more detailed reactions to their work, both praise and correction, because their effort was treated as worth engaging with. None of these were dramatic. Each one was a tiny adjustment. Half a second here, a warmer glance there, but repeated hundreds of times a day, every day, for an entire year, those micro-signals added up into a completely different childhood. The bloomers were not taught more. They were believed in more. And a child can feel that difference even when no one ever says it out loud. Picture one of those children. a 6-year-old who, on the first day of school, was no different from the kid sitting next to him. But his name landed on the list, and so his teacher leaned a little closer when he spoke, waited a beat longer when he hesitated, slid a slightly harder book onto his desk, and said, "I think you can do this one." He had no idea any of it was happening. He just knew, somewhere deep down, that this room expected something of him, and slowly he began to expect it of himself. A year later, the test said he was smarter, but the truth is, he was never given more intelligence. He was given more belief, and his mind grew to fill the space that belief had opened. Here is the part that should make you sit up. This works in both directions. The exact same machinery that lifts a child up can just as easily hold one down. When a teacher quietly decides a student is slow, the warmth fades. The hard questions stop coming. The second of patience vanishes. The feedback goes thin and lazy. The child senses all of it, lowers their own expectations to match, and slowly becomes the very thing the adult had assumed they already were. Psychologists gave this dark twin its own name, the golem effect. Low expectations lived out into reality, exactly the way the high ones are. And this is where it stops being a story about a classroom in 1964. Because you are not a child anymore, but you are still inside the experiment. Every single day. Your boss carries a belief about your potential, and it leaks into how much they invest in you, the projects they trust you with, the patience you get when you stumble. Your parents had a belief about who you would become, and you absorbed it before you were old enough to question it. Your coach, your partner, the teacher who decided early whether you were a math person or not. None of them needed to say it out loud. The expectation traveled anyway, through 1,000 glances and pauses and tones, and somewhere along the way, it began writing itself into you. But there is one expectation in this entire system that matters more than all the others, and that is the one you are holding right now. Because you are also the teacher. You walk into every room carrying a silent prediction about what you are capable of, and your brain spends the whole day quietly proving you right. It decides what you attempt, how long you push, whether a setback is proof you should quit or just a second you need to wait through. You have been running a Pygmalion experiment on yourself your entire life, and you never once saw the list. The children at Oak School didn't get smarter because of a test. They got smarter because someone in the room refused to give up on them, for no real reason at all. And that belief became a force that reshaped them. The cruelest part of the original study is that the bloomers were chosen by chance. There was nothing special about them. But the kindest part is that exact same fact. There was nothing special about them. Which means the door that opened for those children is not locked for anyone. The belief came first. The ability followed, never the other way around. So the next time you catch yourself quietly deciding what someone is, including yourself, stop and remember what really happened in that school. You are not reading the future, you are writing it.